Over to you, Pastor Stephen.
Okay. Good morning, my dear Macy family. It's a wonderful privilege to be here again. I've been a part of Macy family since 2023. When I first met Sister Dawn in Nepal, when we had a wonderful training there. Since then, our relationship in the mission field has been growing, and I'm so happy that we can welcome you in Suriname. It's a privilege to be able to have you guys in Suriname in July of this year. For this month, we will be
I'm
featuring
happy with
Suriname. Thank you, Sister Dawn, for this wonderful opportunity to talk a little bit more about Suriname so that people have more awareness. And for the next 2 weeks, for today and next week, we will have Pastor Amazias Costa giving an introduction about Suriname, facts and figures of Suriname, and next week about the demographics of Suriname that will help actually those who are coming appreciate more the diversity and the multi-ethnic composition of our country. And so today I would like to present to you Pastor Amazias Costa. He is from Brazil, but is currently working in Suriname. He is 29 years old. Actually, I should say young, 29 years young. He's married to Sister Bianca Costa. She's 31, and he is the father of Laura Costa. She is 5 years, turning six in June, and he holds a bachelor's degree in theology from the Amazon Adventist College. In Portuguese, is Faculdade Adventista da Amazônia. That he completed his studies in 2019, and actually, I met him there when I went to study in Brazil, and he was one of the first friends that I made. And he carried me around, and actually, since that time, we are friends until now. That he even accepted the call to come and work in Suriname together with me. He is currently completing his master's degree in missiology at the University of Sao Paulo, Adventist University of Sao Paulo. And he began his pastoral ministry in 2020 in Marabá, Pará. That is Brazil. That is the northern, one of the northern districts, federal districts of Brazil. And he served as assistant pastor at Comunidade 21. In English, we say Community 21 church until 2022. Actually, the name of the neighborhood is Folia 21. So they call the church Comunidade 21. And in 2021, he also served as the regional director of Hope Channel Bible Study School for the South Para Conference. Brazil is very big in Hope Channel and in television and radio ministry. So annually they get 80,000 persons who are interested in Bible studies. So when the people are giving that uh, interest, then the Hope Channel sends it to the various conferences in Brazil where the people are living, and then from there they take it to give Bible studies to these people who are interested. So he was coordinating this for the South Para Conference. And in 2022, he became a district pastor in Dom Eliseu, Pará, overseeing 10 churches. And in 2023, he moved to Paramaribo, Suriname, to lead the Esperança Viva community, serving the Portuguese and Spanish speaking members. And in 2025, he also became the pastor of Elim Church. That's a Dutch speaking church, and the global mission director for the Suriname mission. So he's a missionary at heart. I can say a multi-ethnic, cross-cultural missionary because him speaking Portuguese, serving in a country that speaks Dutch. Of course, he is ministering to Portuguese people and Spanish speaking people. But now we added also a Dutch church to him. So he's he's merged in a multicultural context, and I guess that makes him one of very suitable to talk about cross-cultural mission during these 2 weeks. So I want to invite Pastor Amazias Costa and present to you Pastor Amazias Costa this morning, and I pray that God uses him once again. Welcome, Pastor Amazias Costa, to this amazing family.
Hey, thank you, Pastor Steven. Thank you all. I'm very happy to be here, and actually, I'm very honored because as Pastor Steven told, I'm Brazilian, but I'm here to representing Suriname, and I'm here to speaking about Suriname, yes, to give a class about Suriname. So I'm very honored for this opportunity. Yes, it's a blessing. I'm very happy here. Suriname. When I came to Suriname 3 years ago, I just speak Portuguese. Yes,
Mm.
I only speak Portuguese. I only spoke Portuguese. Okay,
God spoke.
but here, look at that. He's a Dutch country, but I learned English. Yes, Dutch, Dutch is uh, uh, how can how can they say here? Dutch is really difficult. Dutch is moeilijk. Nederland is
It's
moeilijk.
moeilijk.
Yes, but okay, but I do my best. Yes, let's go to the class. Let me share the presentation. 1 second. The presentation is not. Okay. Can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, before we get started, I want to ask you a simple question. How many of you, before you found out about this mission trip, had ever heard of Suriname? How many of you? Yes, don't worry if the answer is not many or even none at all. That by itself already tells us something important about the country you are going to visit. Suriname doesn't make the news. It's not a famous tourist destination. And yet, it is one of the most fascinating and unique countries on the planet. I like to call it the 1040 window of the Americas. And you understand why as we go through these classes together. Today we are going to do a kind of X-ray of Suriname. Okay? The goal is simple. By the time you leave this room, you will know where Suriname is, how it was formed, and what makes it unique in the world, and what to expect when you get here in Suriname. I won't talk today about the specific communities or religion. That's for our next class, next Sunday. Okay, today is about the country itself, the land, the history, and the numbers of Suriname. Okay, let's move on. Look at the map of South America. What comes to your mind when you talk about South America? Most people think of Brazil, Argentina, Colombia, Peru, but in the upper right corner of the continent, squeezed between French Guiana, Brazil, and Guyana, there is a small country called Suriname. Suriname is the smallest independent country in South America, both in terms of land area and population. It has approximately 165,000 square kilometers in a population of about 634,000 inhabitants. To give an idea of the global scale, even being the smallest country in South America, it is almost twice the size of Portugal in Europe, but with only a fraction of its population. But what Suriname lacks in size, it more than makes up for in diversity in nature. Look at that. This is Suriname. This is the map of Suriname. Okay. More than 90% of Suriname's territory is covered by tropical forests. More than 90%. And this is not just any forest. This is the Amazon rainforest. The same forest that covers northern Brazil, Venezuela, Peru, and Colombia. The largest tropical forest in the world. And Suriname is completely immersed in it. In fact, Suriname has the highest proportion of forest cover of any country in the entire world. The country has two different realities. In the north, okay, look at that. In the north, there is a narrow coastal strip, about 50 kilometers wide, where almost all Surinamese people live, concentrated around the capital, Paramaribo. Okay, you can see the districts close to the sea. Niqueri, Coroni, Saramaca, Huánica, Comauena, Maruena, Pará, and of course Paramaribo, the capital. And in the south, there is a vast, nearly untouched Amazon jungle with indigenous communities, rivers that functioned as roads, and a nature that very few places in the world still preserve. The country is divided into 10 administrative districts. The largest is Sipaliwini. Yes, Sipaliwini covers most of the interior, and it's also the least populated. It's the Suriname of the forest, the rivers, the tribes, the Suriname that most visitors never see. So the capital, Paramaribo, is only about 9 kilometers from the Atlantic Ocean at the mouth of the Suriname River. About half of the entire country's population lives in Paramaribo and its surroundings. That is where you will most likely be working during the mission trip, serving and spending time. Now, here's something I need you to remember because it captures a lot of Suriname's history in a way that nobody forgets. So, Suriname was once traded for Manhattan. Did you know that? In 1667, at the end of the Second Anglo-Dutch War, the English and the Dutch sat down in the negotiation table in the city of Breda in the Netherlands to decide who was going to keep what. And the Dutch had in North America a colony called New Amsterdam, right where Manhattan Island is today, New York. And the English had the region that is now Suriname. In the Treaty of Breda, signed on July 31st, 1667, the Dutch said, "Keep New Amsterdam. We want Suriname." The English agreed. New Amsterdam was renamed New York, and Suriname became a Dutch colony. Why did the Dutch choose Suriname? Because back then, sugar was the oil of the world. Yes, like today, the people are The people are running uh, for the oil. And Suriname had extremely profitable sugar plantations. And Manhattan was a small trading colony. To the European eyes of the 17th century, Suriname was worth much more. And there's one more layer to this story. Before acquiring Suriname, the Dutch had already tried to build their sugar empire somewhere else, in northeastern Brazil. Yes, between 1630 and 1654, the Dutch West India Company controlled Pernambuco, with capital in Recife, Brazil, which they called Mauritsstad. This was Dutch Brazil, or New Holland. For almost 25 years, they produced sugar on a massive scale there. But in 1654, the Portuguese, together with local settlers, expelled the Dutch from Brazil after a series of battles, including the famous battles of Guararapes. After losing Brazil, the Dutch turned their attention to the northern coast of South America, where Suriname is located. With even more determination, when they got Suriname in 1667, they already knew exactly what to do: reproduce the plantation system they had developed in Brazil. But before we go deeper into history, let's talk about the land itself. Okay? We said the more than we said the more than 90% of Suriname is Amazon rainforest. Okay, it's like, to be specific, it's like 93%. That creates a country with absolutely unique characteristics. First, the climate. Suriname shares the Amazonian climate of the region, and that means one simple thing: it is hot all year round. There is no winter in Suriname. There is no feels a bit cool today as the way you experience in Canada or in the North America or in Europe. Temperatures in Paramaribo stay between 27 and 30 degrees Celsius all year with very high humidity. What Suriname has instead of seasons are two types of periods: the rainy season and the dry season. Actually, Suriname has four periods: a short raining season from December to February, a short dry season from February to April, the main rainy season from April to August, and the main dry season from August to December. When the rain comes, it really comes heavy, fast, often with thunder, and then it stops and the sun comes back. That's the rhythm of the Amazon forest. For people who are not used to it, it can feel dramatic. As a storm builds up, rain pours down hard, and then in minutes it's over and the sun is shining again. And that's Suriname. For you coming from Canada or North America or Europe, this is a real adjustment. Drink a lot of water, use sunscreen, bring light clothes, and don't be surprised by a strong rain that lasts 20 minutes and then completely stops. Second, the biodiversity. In 2013, a team of 16 international scientists did a 3-week expedition in the Palomeu River. Is it right, Pastor Stephen? Palomeu?
Yes, yes,
The
Palomeu.
Palomeu River basin in the interior of Suriname. The result, they cataloged 1,378 species, and among those, 60 were possibly unknown to science, including 6 species of frogs, 1 snake, and 11 fish. Suriname has animals that exist nowhere else in the world. One fascinating example is the blue poison dart frog, known by its indigenous name Okopipi. It is endemic to Suriname. It only lives here, and every frog has a unique skin pattern, like a human fingerprint. Suriname also has the Central Suriname Nature Reserve, declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site in the year 2000. It covers more than 1.6 million hectares of virtually untouched forest. And here is a fact that very few people know. Very few people know. Because of all this forest, Suriname has been a carbon negative economy since 2014. That means the country absorbs more carbon than it produces. It's one of the very few countries in the world in that situation. Third characteristic, Lake Brokopondo. In eastern Suriname, there is an artificial reservoir called Lake Brokopondo, created by a dam on the Suriname River. When it was built in the 1960s, it was one of the largest reservoirs in the world by surface area. It provides hydroelectric power for a large part of the country's industry. Fourth, this is important for you to understand before you arrive in Suriname. Okay, Suriname. Let me say that Suriname is not a Latin American country. I know that might sound strange. After all, it is in South America. But let me explain. When we talk about Latin America, we're talking about countries with Iberian cultural heritage, Spanish or Portuguese language, dominant Catholic influence, a shared continental identity with Brazil, Argentina, Mexico, Colombia, and so on. Suriname simply doesn't fit into that. Suriname, just like Guyana and Front Guyana, is geographically turned away from its continental neighbors. Its official language is Dutch. Its colonial history is Dutch, which means it is much closer culturally to the English speaking Caribbean. Its economic, cultural, and family connections are far stronger with the Netherlands and the Anglophone Caribbean than with any Latin American country. A good way to picture this, imagine that Suriname, Guyana, and French Guyana form a group that looks toward the North Atlantic, toward the Netherlands, toward Trinidad and Tobago, toward Barbados, toward the Caribbean world, while Brazil is right next door and the two barely look each other. This has practical implications for you as missionaries. When you arrive in Suriname, don't assume that context is South America. In the usual sense, the cultural reference is different. It's Caribbean, it's Dutch, it's plural. In fact, with so many immigrant communities from such different parts of the world that came to Suriname, it's really hard to put this country in any box because even compared to the Caribbean and British Guyana, it's different. Yes, Suriname today is part of the CARICOM, the Caribbean community. Okay, to understand Suriname today, we need to understand how it got here. The history is dense, but I'm going to walk you through the key points. Long before the Europeans, Suriname was inhabited by indigenous peoples. The most historically known groups are the Arawak, the Carib, and the Wayana. And the descendants of these people still live in Suriname today. 16th century, the Europeans arrived. In the 16th century, the Spanish, English, Dutch, French, and Portuguese all fought for control of what they called the Wild Coast, the region between the Amazon River and the Orinoco River. It was a strategic area covered in forest with navigable rivers that seemed to promise great riches. Many were looking for the El Dorado in this region, a legendary place full of gold and mineral wealth. The first permanent European settlement in Suriname was established in 1651 by English settlers coming from Barbados under Governor William Willoughby. Within, within a few years, they had about 50 plantations along the Suriname River using enslaved labor. They called the main fort Fort Willoughby. But 1667, the Great Trade happened, and as I told you earlier, the Second Anglo-Dutch War changed everything. In February 1667, Admiral Abraham Grayson captured the English fort in Suriname and renamed it Fort Zeelandia, which still exists today in Paramaribo, and took control of the colony. I believe you will actually visit the fort during the trip. Yes, it's right in the center of the city, very close to the presidential palace. Okay, months later, in the Treaty of Breda, that conquest was made official. The Dutch kept Suriname, the English kept New Amsterdam, and the world was never the same. Uh, that's the Fort Zeelandia. Uh, during during that period, from 1667 to 1863, it happened the plantation era. For almost two centuries, Suriname operated as one of the most profitable plantation colonies in the world. Around 3 300,000 Africans were brought to Suriname in slavery through the transatlantic slave trade to work on the sugar, coffee, and cocoa plantations. Many of the enslaved Africans managed to escape into the Amazon forest. These groups who fled and built their own independent societies in the jungle, they are called Maroons, and they still exist today with their own cultures and language in the interior of Suriname. I will talk much more about them in our next class next Sunday. Okay. On July 1st, 1863, the Netherlands abolished slavery in all of its colonies. However, the freed enslaved people were still required to work for another 10 years under contract. And to replace the labor on the plantations, the Dutch people brought workers from other parts of the colonial empire. Workers came from British India starting in 1873 and from the island of Java, which is now Indonesia. Workers also came from the island of Madeira in Portugal, and from China, and from other countries. Each one of these immigration waves brought a culture, a language, a religion, a cuisine, and all of them are still present in Suriname today. They form the current culture of the country. That is why Suriname is what it is, a human mosaic, unlike anywhere else on earth. But those people, who they are, what they believe, how they live, that is exactly the topic of our next class. So don't miss the next class. In 1954, Suriname became an autonomous country within the Dutch kingdom. But in 1975, independence came in. On November, to be specific, yes, on November 25, 1975, Suriname became fully independent. And here something happened that defines much of the country even today. With the prospect of independence, tens of thousands of Surinamese people who had dual citizenship and the right to choose immigrated to the Netherlands. By 1975, there were already 1,010 well, 110,000 Surinamese people in the Netherlands. Today, the number is around 350,000. That means nearly one in every two Surinamese people in the world is living in the Netherlands. In 1908, just 5 years after independence, Suriname experienced a military coup that overthrew the civilian government. Colonel Botterson took power, and the military dictatorship lasted until 1991, when democracy was restored. Since then, Suriname has held regular elections, and today the country has its first woman serving as President of the Republic, Jennifer Simmons. Now, let's look at the numbers. Yes, let's talk about the economy of Suriname. Because to serve well anywhere, we need to understand the concrete reality of the country. Okay, Suriname has approximately 634,000 inhabitants. It is the smallest country in South America, both in territory and population. The capital, Paramaribo, is home to about 250,000 people, roughly half the entire country. Suriname is classified by the World Bank as a middle income country. The GDP in 2024 was approximately 4.7 billion US dollars. Suriname's economy is dominated by mining, gold, oil, and bauxite, the mineral used to produce aluminium, account for more than 80% of the country's exports. This makes Suriname very vulnerable to fluctuations in international commodity markets. The GDP growth was 2.8 in 2024, 2.8% in 2024, with a projection of 30.1% in 2025. And there is a big expectation on the horizon: the discovery of significant offshore oil reserves. If you look at Suriname's neighbor, Guyana, which has experienced exponential economic growth in recent years, something truly unprecedented, becoming one of the highest GDP per capita countries in the Americas. The same potential is being promised for Suriname. Productions of the first barrels is expected to start in 2028, and that has the potential to transform the country's economy completely. Talking about poverty today, there are still 17.5% of the population living below the poverty line. And even more striking, 46% of Surinamese people live in multidimensional poverty, which means a lack of adequate access to healthcare, education, and nutrition. This reality is especially intense in the interior of the country. This shows us that through social work and humanitarian aid, we can bring real relief to many people's lives and present Christ to them through the method of Christ. Okay, let's talk about the language of Suriname. Dutch is the official language, widely spoken, used in government, education, in official documents. But on the streets, the language that brings all Surinamese people together is Saranatongo, also called Taki-Taki. It's a Creole language based on English with influence from Dutch, Portuguese, African language, and indigenous language. It's the language that people from different ethnic groups use to communicate with each other. English is also widely spoken in the country, especially in urban areas. Okay. Besides that, you will hear Caribbean Hindi, Surinamese Javanese, and various indigenous and Maroon languages. It's common for ethnic groups like the Javanese, for example, the Hindustanis, and the Saramakan Maroons to use their own language or dialect among themselves. Paramaribo, Paramaribo has a reasonable infrastructure for a South American capital. The U.S. State Department classifies Suriname as Level 1, exercise normal precautions, which is the lowest risk classification compared to many large cities in Latin America or the Caribbean. Suriname has a good level of safety as long as you take normal precautions. Okay? Paramaribo is a fascinating city, and it's where you'll be spending most of your time during the mission trip. Historically, Paramaribo is a Dutch colonial gem. The historic center of the city was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2002. And the reason is something truly unique in the world. It's a collection of Dutch colonial architecture built entirely in wood. There is nothing like it anywhere else on the planet. White buildings of 2 and 3 stories built in tropical hardwood with European neoclassical influences. It's a build that is both strange and elegant at the same time. But there is something even more impressive than the architecture in Paramaribo. And this is going to be very relevant for you as missionaries. As missionaries. Within just a few blocks in the center of Paramaribo, you will find a large Islamic mosque, a Jewish, how can I say that? Synagogue,
Synagogue.
okay, a Jewish synagogue with over 300 years of history, a Hindu temple, a Catholic cathedral, and various Protestant churches. Yes, this is the Hindu temple. This is the Catholic cathedral and different Protestant churches. And these institutions have existed side by side for centuries. Suriname has a tradition of religious coexistence that's rare in the world today. Yes, that doesn't mean there are no tensions. There are, but there is also a culture of mutual respect that is very important. For you, this is both an opportunity and a context to respect. You'll be serving in a place where people of very different faiths live together that requires sensitivity, wisdom, and humility. Practically speaking, Paramaribo has supermarkets, pharmacies, internet access, and hospitals. The local currency is the Suriname dollar. The exchange rate with the US dollar has fluctuated a lot in recent years. Today is around 1 US to 37.50 SRD. Traffic in the city can be chaotic during rush hours. Public transport infrastructure is limited. Most people get around by car, motorcycle, or taxi. And the Surinamese cuisine, okay, the Surinamese cuisine, this is one of my favorite things to talk about in Suriname because I'm absolutely passionate about Surinamese food. Actually, I'm passionate about the whole cultural mix that created it because it's exactly what you would expect from a country with so many cultures, a fusion of Indian, Japanese, African, Creole, indigenous, and Dutch cooking. The most common dish is roti, India flatbread served with curry. There is also bami and nasi, Japanese influence. Rice with chicken is the base of many meals, and there are also many vegetarian options. Get ready to eat well in Suriname and to try something different. Okay, so what did we learn today? Suriname is small in size, but enormous, very big in complexity. It's a country that is in South America, but it's not Latin America. It has a European official language, but speaks a dozen languages on the streets. It was built on layers of slavery, immigration, and diversity. It was once worth more than Manhattan in the eyes of the colonial world. It absorbs more carbon than it emits. It has 90% Amazon rainforest in a capital city with 17th century Dutch wooden architecture. It is a country of beautiful, complex contradictions, and that is where you are going to serve. In our next class, we will go deeper. We will get to know the people, who the Surinamese are, where they came from, what they believe, how they are organized. Because to serve well, it's not enough to know where you are. You need to know who you are serving. Before we close, I want us to take a moment. Close your eyes. Think about Suriname. Think about the Amazon rainforest that covers that land. Think about the rivers that cut through the interior. Think about Paramaribo with its churches and mosques and synagogues side by side. Think about the 630 six help me Steven 600
634,000.
yes, people who live there. Every one of them has a name. Every one of them has a name, a story, a family, a soul that God loves. And you are going there to meet those people, not as tourists, not as experts, but as servants of Christ. Yes? So that's the presentation.
Thank you. Well, Pastor. All right. That was, did I say the Dutch right?
Yes, correct,
All
correct.
right. I'm practicing for July. Okay, for those of you, Will, this was very rich. Thank you so much, Pastor, because now we have an even better perspective with the history that you've given us, as it relates to the place we will be working
Yes.
in.
Yes,
So,
forgive me for any mistake. I try to do my
no,
best.
you
Was
did
so
very
good.
well. You did very well because you left Brazil speaking Portuguese. You enter Suriname learning Dutch, and that's where you picked up English too, right?
Yes, yes, yes,
You're awesome. So you are definitely a cross-culture person. Learning the
yes,
language is one
Definitely.
yes.
thing that really brings people together.
Look at that. Suriname is a Dutch speaking country, right? But
Yes.
I've learned English in Suriname and Spanish in Suriname. Yes.
Amazing
It's
for
crazy.
such a short space of time. So there's hope for us.
Of course.
There is hope for us to pick up a few sentences at least. And I'm happy that at least the people will understand the English so we can communicate a little better. So that's quite interesting and encouraging for us who will be English speakers going down to Suriname. Now, for everyone who is here, if you have any question, we'll ask you to raise your virtual hand, and the pastors will respond as best as they can as you ask your questions. Can also raise your hand to give us some comments. And this is a very, very, very good place to do cross-culture work. You know, just here, and I can't wait for next week. So we have some hand raised. So I don't know if Pastor Steve, I don't know if you will leave the burden on Pastor Costa to answer, or you'll assist him
Yes, I'll assist him. He can, if it's specifically about his presentation, he can answer. But if it's outside, maybe
outside.
I can
Okay,
give support.
great,
Yes.
great. We have Sister Leslie. Go ahead. You have your
Sister,
hand raised.
just to let you know, there are something that you're gonna talk about. Yes, but
Yes.
on the next classes. Yes.
Yes, if it is so, please don't ask please don't answer. Persons will have to show up so that they can get the answers. Make it more interesting the next time. Lovely presentation, and thank you so much. Sister Les, you can open your mic and ask a question or give your comment. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. I enjoyed the presentation very, very much. Look forward to going there. My question is, what is the ratio of Seventh-day Adventists to the population? The ratio of Seventh-day Adventists to the population.
That's for the
Thank you.
secretary, no?
That's for you.
Well, we have on ACMS we have 3,500 plus members, 3,582, I guess, and we have 634,000 Surinamese. So I guess it's one. Let me try to 634,000. It's one Adventist for every 176 Surinamese. So the ratio is very low. Yeah, one Adventist for 176 Surinamese.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes.
Good question, Sister Leslie. I think we need more missionaries, eh?
Yeah.
All right, good question. Sister Grace, you can go ahead. Oh, Sister Leslie, you're about to say something?
No, no, no. Go ahead, please. Thank you.
Okay, great. Sister Grace, you can unmute.
Yeah, yes, yes. Thank you so much for the very informative presentation. And unfortunately, this time I won't be able to join in, but I've been very intrigued. My question is, given the history of that country as you expounded on it, and especially in light of the slavery, and finally the seclusion of the African communities into now what you call the Morons. I'm wondering what level of discrimination continues to exist within the communities there, and especially for the Black community that originated from Africa, based on what the colonialists already laid out as, levels of, caste, almost like the caste system, who's better than who. So I would imagine that the Black communities had at the least in terms of services and resources and perhaps opportunities.
Thank you for your question, Sister Grace. She's asking from a sociological point of view. That's her area. So either of the pastors, you could answer now or next week when you will deal with the various cultural groups. I don't know.
Stephen.
Pastor Amos, you want to answer? You need my help?
Yes, you can talk about it.
Well, maybe in short, in a sociological perspective, of course, most of the Africans that came to Suriname to work as slaves, they come from Ghana. Um, so we have strong connections with Ghana, actually. And what has happened is that, of course, during slavery time, there was a group, Pastor Amazias mentioned about them, slaves that ran away from the plantations. They were very courageous to leave the plantations, and they went into the interior of Suriname, and actually they created their own community, their own system of governing the how you call it the villages and so. And then you had those who stayed in Paramaribo or in the plantations, and then we call those the the Creoles from the city. And sometimes there is still a difference, yeah, even within the same African population, descendants of African population. You have those elite Creoles that stayed in the city. They had more access to education. They had more access to to healthcare, etc. So most of the time, their position in society is very much better than those who ran away. Those who went to the interior, there were no schools, there were no hospitals there, so the education level was lower. Then, of course, the Catholic Church and the Moravian Church, they built schools in the interior, and so a lot of Maroons, they got education. But after primary school, there's no further education, so they had to come to the city. And so when they come to the city, they can continue to study further. But sometimes we still see a difference, even in their skin color. You have various shades, no, of various shades. Those of the interior were exposed, I guess, to more sun, and so they are a little bit darker. But you still see sometimes the division in yes, we are the elite Creole, African Afro-Surinamese um, people, and then those Maroons. Nowadays, we see that they are getting more involved in politics, the Maroons, and their position in the Surinamese government sometimes give them a better position. So it's actually a really a whole study of itself. But it happens, yes, that sometimes those who stayed in a city, they feel more elite, they feel more privileged than those of the interior. Yes, but we don't fight with each other. Sometimes it's internal, Surinamese don't really show sometimes difference, but in their minds, it's there. Yeah.
Okay. Just so that you know too, Pastor, you have Ghanaian heritage, right? Do you?
Yes, I'm
I
half
know you told
African.
me that. Yeah, you told us that. So
The
he
one
knows a lot.
nation,
He
one
knows a
nation.
he
Are
knows a
there
lot.
are there are there Ghanaians here in our midst?
I don't know if we have Ghanaians here, but if we do, respect. And another thing too, just so that the missionaries who are here that will be going know, we should be visiting one of these communities, right? Because we do have a presence, at least in one of the
Yeah,
many interior communities.
yeah. We have a church there, yes,
Okay, good.
in the
In one
upper
of the
river of Suriname.
Okay, good. And just to piggyback on that, I saw somebody else's hand, and we will take your hand, Brother Ray. But just to piggyback on that, that's one of the marginalized groups, will seemingly because of the history and all of that. I also noticed that the indigenous, we call them Amerindians in South America, they too were always there, and they seem to be in the interior too. So those
Yes,
groups who are more, because based on the presentation that we heard earlier on, those that live in the interior have less access to many things. And so we can just imagine that those are the ones seemingly are disadvantaged in some areas because of their location.
that's
The Amerindians is the same thing with them too, or similar?
yes, it's similar actually. Well, our church in the 1960s, we built a school in our Indian village close to French
Mhm.
Guyana. It's called Erawarte. So there we have a lot of Indians who are members of the church, and uh, yeah, we actually built a structure there so that we can, make education accessible to them. Uh, and of course, those how you call them, Indians. There's most of them are still in tribes, in the far
In the culture.
interior.
Wow.
And actually, even yesterday there was a manifestation, a protest manifestation, because they want more. What is the word in English? Recognition of the government for their
Oh,
rights, for their rights of having their own land, because those who came from outside took all their land, you
and the
know,
gold.
and all the gold. Yes, this is an interesting history, but they want more
Yes.
recognition, and even
Mhm.
the United Nations summoned the government to, to
Recognize.
organize the tribal rights, etc.
Okay. And just so that you know, here on this platform, that we'll be visiting that school. We would like to paint the school too, so please contribute towards that. That'll be one of our projects. And to keep the school going so that we have not just a presence there, but that we help the community. And Jesus would have done that. So this is one way where we can reach out and help that community. So that's one of the schools we'll be visiting on our trip. So thank you for talking about that. There is another hand raised. Empress, go ahead, my dear.
Yes, my question is, actually, thank you so much for such a wonderful presentation. And it's like I just heard about Suriname as a name, but I didn't know about all those different people who are there. About religion, is there any religion that is dominant? Like, for instance, if I said my country, back home, I would say Christianity is
Yes.
dominant.
Yes. Pastor Amazias, you want to answer this one?
Yes, I think it's very mixed, right? There's not a religion, a dominant religion in Suriname. Am I right, Pastor Stephen?
The dominant is Christianity. We have almost 48%
Yes,
Christians
but it's not. Ah, yes, yes, yeah. Okay, okay. When you talk about the Christianity, uh,
as a whole. Yeah.
as a whole, yes, uh, Catholic Church and Protestant. Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Catholic and Protestant is almost 48%. And then the next bigger one is Hinduism. And then we have Islamism, Muslims. And then you have African religions. We call them Winti. Uh, yes, and then a small amount of Buddhists and so. But the main religions are Christianity as a whole, and then Hinduism and Islamism.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Great. Thank you very much. Good, great question, Sister Rachel. Brother Ray?
Hi, yeah, I agree with Sister Empress. Great presentation. My question is, what kind of activities do families and the youth have that they're able to do together during, like in the little local areas and stuff like that? I mean, are there safe places for like the youth to gather and like culturally, what kind of information? It might be something that you're going to talk about later, but I'm just curious at the moment.
Pastor Amazias, you want to answer? He's passing the ball to me. Well, in Suriname, we have a lots of places where you can go and swim. Creeks, actually, creeks. We don't call them a beach, or we don't have blue water beaches, but we have creeks with very healthy water. It's actually the herbs of the plants make the water black. So some people are afraid to swim in black water because they want to see what is in the water. But when you take a dive in this black water, it gives you such a strength when you come out. It's even healthy for your skin. So that's is the creeks. It's not so far from Paramaribo, but then you have other places also alongside the Suriname River, where the water is what do you
Brown.
call it? It's not salty. It's
Sweet water.
yeah, sweet water. It's sweet water, so you
Drink
can go. No, I'm not sure if you can drink it, but but you
it. You
can
can drink
you can take a bath. Well, sometimes water goes in your mouth, but it's not that you drink it. Not that you drink it. So you can do that. There are some small parks where you can go. It's not that sophisticated parks, but family go and play with the children there. Of course, there's also what do you call it?
Welcome.
Aqua park place. But it's not. It's artificial water. What do you call it? Artificial. Uh,
Swimming
so
pool.
Lakes.
like a swimming pool where you can go and have sliders and so. Uh, of course, you have sports activities. Um, People can go to sports. Uh, and mostly families go on Sunday on the Sunday market, where you can get good food. Surinamese like to eat. Yes.
Okay, be prepared for us. We're coming. Food. Okay, is there any more comment or questions? All right, so as you've noticed, there's a lot of work to be done there in that territory, and God is calling for volunteers. We will be going on a very short-term basis, but they do have need for teachers. Make your pitch, Secretary.
Oh yes, Suriname is in need of hands. As you know, I said we have 2,500 members, but actually, when we look in our churches, we don't even have half of them actively, active. And the work is so much. We have only 10 pastors, and one of the pastors is retired, but he's still working. So you have actually nine full-time pastors for this vast country, But thank God we have some students who are studying at USC. One of them is here, Elder of the
Oh,
UPK. So he's studying to become a pastor, and we have four others. So in a short while, maybe in three years, we will have more pastoral uh, persons who can help. But for now, we really need your hands, your hands, your prayers, and even your contribution. And if you can't make it
talent.
this time, uh, remember Suriname. The mission field is big, and of course, God can use all of us, any one of us, to bring His message. So I'm really delighted and happy that this can happen in Suriname, um, and it will make a long-lasting impact in the lives of the people.
Amen.
Yes.
Amen. Thank you so much. So if you're into ministry, you're an educator or stuff, there's a call. You could take sabbatical, take a year off, and you can go down to Suriname and give it a little bit there. God will appreciate it. The field is huge, and the laborers are few. So God is calling. All right. If there is no more question or comments, we will bring this to a close and we will go off. So those of you who are looking at us live stream, thank you for joining us. And if you have questions, you can always send them to us directly to contact at macyglobal.org, and we will respond to you. Don't forget, share the link and